We are doing part 2 of our costumes that we are explaining as our favorite and our worst. This is going to be our worst costumes that we have seen in live action, either in movies or in TV shows. So these are not going to be our, the most worst costumes ever, but these are going to be what we believe is the ones that we've seen as our worst. So without further ado, let's get geeky. Hey, welcome back, everybody. We are continuing our live action comic book costume discussion. I am one of your hosts, Matt. With me is John.
What's up, y'all?
And this is Geeks From The Multiverse podcast, of course. And if you're new or if you just haven't done so because you're lazy, well, you can do it now. You can click that follow button. It does help you find our podcast very easily because when you click that follow button, it puts the podcast right in your library. So it makes it very easy to find us the next time we post a new episode. And while you're in there clicking around, give us a review. You can click on the stars, give us a rating. We really do appreciate it. It really does mean a lot to us.
I couldn't say it better, Matt, because that's literally what it is, guys. I mean, we try to give you content. We try to give you all this stuff, and, we want to be able to grow. And so, again, part of how we need to grow is how you guys can help us out, right? And so it's not like we're asking, like, hey, guys, can we get $1 million from you guys so we can, start growing? No. We're literally just saying, hey, just spread the word, man. That's it. It's very simple, very little things here and there.
It literally takes under a minute to do both. If it takes you that long, then you're doing it wrong. I mean, it takes you a few seconds to do.
Listen, you want to talk about instant gratification? I'm like, it would give us instant gratification to allow you guys to help us spread the word. But Matt, I know we were debating on this, but I felt like you had something you wanted to ask me.
One day during this week, I was driving in my car, and I have different playlists in Spotify that I listen to. And if you are unaware, our podcast has our own playlist that you can find in the link tree, but I have, my own playlist. Like I have a metal playlist. I have a gangster rap playlist. I have, kind of what I call the sing-along playlist, but it's really just kind of that 90s alternative music kind of playlist.
Yeah.
And I was actually listening to my gangsta kind of playlist, which is old school kind of rap and hip hop.
So we're talking like 80s, 90s kind of a thing. Yep.
Yeah. And there's a lot of Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Eminem and that kind of stuff in there.
You mean Snoop Dogg?
Snoop Dogg. Yeah. And it got me thinking to when I was younger, being in middle school and, early high school, when these, NWA first started coming out and, music like Insane Clown Posse first started coming out. And it really kind of spawned the question of, did you ever listen to something that was, I guess, sort of on that kind of taboo list that like kind of NWA and Insane Clown Posse was?
Yeah, man, I know we talked about it a little bit, but growing up, my family is very, rock, country, pop, like the early, I would say 80s and 90s, really, sometimes 70s, depending on what it was. Growing up, a lot of it was really country and rock. And there was just a time where, as a kid, you start to explore other options, but for me, it was like my friends that, I remember, yes, guys, I know some of you may know, some of you may not. I did live overseas for a few years. I lived in Spain. And so when I was it was like elementary, well, it was really more middle school or middle school-ish. Somebody was like, hey, have you heard of these artists? And I'm like, I've heard of them, It doesn't mean I was going to listen to them at the time because my parents would have been like, hello, what are you listening to? I'm
Right.
going to smack you kind of a deal. And that's kind of what Matt and I were talking about. But like, for me, it was more, I'll say it was Eminem. Like it was, of course, everyone's like, oh, you're a white guy. You have to like Eminem. I'm like, no, it wasn't because of his race, people. Okay. It was because he was different. He was a different, artist and different things like that. I mean, if I look at him as a whole now, I mean, yeah, he's up there in a lot of things, but I mean, you can't deny him of his title of what he's done because he's done a lot. I'm not saying everything that he's done is great, but I mean, controversially wise, go ahead and try to verse this man. There's been a lot of times where he's destroyed people's careers. Like he's done that. He has destroyed them, and he can do it because he's lyrically insane to another degree. It is
Yeah.
quite amazing. But anyway, so like he was one of the ones that I started listening to, probably in middle school wise. And of course, it was kind of like what Matt and I talked about earlier was, there's different artists, of course, besides just him that, you're listening to it in a car. You're like, yeah, you're getting into it. And you're like, let's say at a stoplight and it's like, I fuck hoes, or, in different area codes, right? So like something like that came on and you're like, it's that like in different area. And then all of a sudden you have to like turn it down a little bit,
Yeah.
Like that's where I'd be like, yeah. So, I mean, yes. Have I done it even now? Yeah. There are times where, depending on, I'm not going to lie, man. There are some times I go down certain neighborhoods and I'll put it on and then I'm like, let me just turn that down a little bit. Cause I don't know if that's probably wise of me to do that, but it's because I'm just in tune to hopefully everything around me. Because at that point you're like, is this the right moment to play probably one of the worst songs? And then, some guy's looking at me like, you want to go? And you're like, not today. Let me just turn that down and just get the hell out of here. And
In a society that's like maybe shoot first,
ask questions later kind of a deal.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I mean, there were definitely like, listening to a lot of NWA, and we all know NWA is, the N word, the F word, the S word, the P word, like every word that you can think of, like they said it. Insane Clown Posse is on another level outside, like way outside the realm of appropriate.
Right, and weird, and it's a lot of different things, but yeah.
Those were some of the ones that, just taboo enough where, you would listen to them, but you wouldn't necessarily want other people to listen to them while you were listening to them, unless it was like, your close friends and your, a lot of the friends that I, was with, we would listen to them. Like Insane Clown Posse was one of the ones that we just thought were hilarious and what they were, rapping about and the skits that they would do, on their albums, like were just hilarious.
And I mentioned that earlier to you, Matt, that how it was only hip hop and rap that they've only like certain artists will do just skits. Like it's just like these little, it's like a couple minutes. It's kind of like when we used to do, well, we haven't done it in a while, but like our little skits that we post online and stuff, but like they would do the same exact thing, but like have random things in there. It wouldn't even, sometimes it would make sense in their album. And then sometimes it's like, what was the point of doing that and just throwing it in there for whatever reason?
Right.
But I agree. Like there's just, unfortunately with our society now, it's like, it's going to sound a little weird here, but like my dad and I were watching Blazing Saddles. Okay. That movie alone in today's society would basically be on an uproar. It would basically, everyone would be like, take that shit off now. Like it wouldn't even be a question. Like you cannot publish that because there are so many things about that movie, just like in music and everything else. It's like our society as a whole would basically rip up the 90s and the 80s when it came to any content now. If that stuff came out now, oh my God, we wouldn't even have music. We wouldn't have movies. We wouldn't have anything.
Yeah. And what's interesting though, when you look back at, Insane Clown Posse, I think like what they were, they really pushed the envelope on, what was, appropriate, inappropriate. But when you look at, NWA and you look at, a lot of these, gangster rap and, even Eminem to a level, as a kid, like I definitely didn't understand like what they were rapping about.
No, of course they did, because at that time it was unfortunately, a lot of what they were rapping about, it's like, yeah, you had to, of course, be older to kind of know, but like a lot of their stuff is, again, we're talking about, I mean, well, really, bitches, if you want to call them like that.
Right,
We're
and
talking about like different things like that, but
all their stuff like against police and against like the violence against blacks and all that stuff. Like as a kid, like I wouldn't, I definitely wouldn't have understood. As an adult, I completely understood. So you kind of take that into context. Like society just looked at it as, no, what they're doing is completely inappropriate. It's wrong. It's taboo. But you take society now and you have songs like WAP.
okay.
And that's like,
I mean, hold on, even better. There's a song called Dick. I kid you not. There's a song called Dick, and it's
Yeah.
almost on the same lines as that.
yeah,
I'm just saying.
you have these songs now and it's like NWA was actually trying to send messages about what was happening
Right.
with, violence against.
Well, so that's the thing about, and I'm going to just say it as a whole. Like, if you look at every generation of music, from let's say the 20s all the way up until now, like, so the 1920s, right? So every generation, no matter if you're the silent generation, baby boomers, whatever, like, if you kept going up, everyone, so your parents always thought, oh, well, you're just, no, I don't like that music. It's rebellious. So let's say if you grew up in the 60s and you were listening to that, right? And then, so again, because your choice of music was probably 80s and 90s, right? Your parents were like, what kind of shit is this? What is crap? What is this? What is this crap? It's the same thing. It does it every generation because everything is based on what you've learned from what you grew up on, right? So whatever I listen to and whatever you listen to, and then our kids are like, oh, this is music. And you're like, what the hell is this shit being played right now? Like, you know what I mean? But it's the truth because that's really what it is. Every generation is different. And they always feel like, okay, well, my music was the best. No, my music was, no, honestly, it doesn't matter. But the thing is about rap and hip hop in this case, rap and hip hop, yes, if you want to consider a type of music that was very, I would say majority of it is very violent and very, like, oh, heavy on drugs and everything else. It depends on who you're talking about. Certain artists were never like that. There are certain artists that actually give a good story. They actually tell something that is different than what the others ones are. Like nowadays, oh my God, I couldn't tell you. Like it's a totally different rap game than it would be back in the 80s and 90s. And even back then, like they were talking, like you said, about messages and actually trying to tell a story or telling like what was going on and the reality of the situation versus nowadays, which is complete and utter bullshit. But that's just me.
Yeah. And yeah, certainly, today there are artists that are still sending the same types of messages, but you have a lot more, of those artists that are like Insane Clown Posse that are sending just asinine messages that are completely like inappropriate for society that should never have been made
that shouldn't
to begin with. Like, and people listen to it, they make it popular. It's a fad. Like, WAP was a thing for a minute, and where is it now?
I mean, people still listen to it. It just depends on who you are and how you want to play it. But like, no, I agree. It just, unfortunately, our society they're making it more difficult. Like it's like they want to have this woke movement. I get it. The reason why we keep bringing it up, it's because unfortunately, this is how our society views everything. And it's funny how they will pick and nitpick every little detail on certain things, but like, they don't want to nitpick on songs like WAP. Or like I said, Dick, or other things like that. But they don't nitpick that shit. They only nitpick the things that
I think it's like the more like you can push the envelope and the more like inappropriate and the more like you can just push the line.
Right. But what I'm saying is where does their standards lie? Because if they're going to nitpick,
I don't think that matters. I think it's about pushing that envelope and saying like, okay, well, that's where the line is. We're going to go one step over that. No. And then that's where the new line is drawn and go, okay, well, as long as you don't go over that line, and they go, oh, so that's where the new line is. Let's just go over it one more time.
No, but I'm just saying, I mean, to me, it's just like you look at some of the, the movies and the music and things like that, but they'll nitpick, how people talk about certain things. I mean, I kid you not, I I remember just even seeing a clip of it, but like Dave Chappelle. Okay. Dave Chappelle on his new Netflix special, I think he made a joke about the LGBTQ community, and people were uproar about it. They were literally freaking out like, oh my God, are you serious? Why are you doing this?
Danielle and I actually watched that special.
Okay, well, there you go. So my point is like, he drew that line, and they're now, whatever. What I'm trying to say is like, you're going to play that line with him, then what about different songs about nowadays, like the WAP and shit like that, where kids are now listening to it, or movies, right? For example, like
Exactly. Yeah.
Mermaid, like, okay, The Little Mermaid. Guess what? That was a huge uproar in that.
You're gonna draw the line at like, oh, well, you can't make jokes about, handicap or LGBTQ communities, but you can write a song about, wet ass. I'm not going to say the word.
I've said a bunch of swears right now, so I guess it really doesn't matter. But yeah,
you're going to write a song about that, saying, basically telling kids like it's okay to do this type of stuff and to have the, have it right out in the open.
This is why I'm saying when you said no, this doesn't matter. I'm like, it does matter because
it matters.
They're specifying what is the line when it comes to certain things, but not on other things. That's the problem that I have with today's society. Is like you're telling me that you're going to make nitpicks on certain things, but not on everything. Because if you were the true woke movement,
this isn't even the first time he's made like an LGBTQ joke. Like this is the avenue of comedy like that he's been in since he's been in comedy.
No, I agree.
You know what I mean?
What I'm saying is it's just mind-boggling that our society, if the true woke movement is in place, that means every little thing, I mean everything, no matter if it's music, entertainment, whatever the hell it is, okay? You better then you got to tell me what that line is apparently, because you can't just nitpick only one or two things. You need to nitpick. If you're the true woke society, then you need to nitpick.
It needs to be same across the board for everybody, and it's not that.
No, that's the problem. Yeah. It's like a clique. That is literally what this reminds me of. It's a high school clique, and we're just.
I hate high school cliques.
Yeah, we're not going there.
Yeah, we're not going there. Anyway, so last episode we talked about our favorites. We're not going to rehash through all that. But we did talk about quite a few. So if you missed the last week's episode, go back and listen to that one. This one, however, is not going to probably be as exciting because we're talking about our least favorite.
I think it'll be exciting only because I feel like you and I like to trash talk a lot of different things.
And so there's some really terrible ones that are listed here.
Oh, I mean, this first one is a no freaking brainer. That is a hands down one of the worst costumes I've ever seen.
Well, and it doesn't really even make sense.
No, not in that movie. No.
So the very first one is Deadpool, and it's not the Deadpool from Ryan Reynolds, although Ryan Reynolds did play this one.
So really, what we're talking about is the X-Men origin. So like in that movie, when he first
with the no mouth and no shirt and the weird tattoos all over his face and body. And then apparently
instead of having katanas, he actually had blades coming out of his arms, which was weird.
So yeah, he had a pair of swords that pop out of his arms that are so large that they couldn't have possibly fit inside of his arms without poking through the back of his triceps.
Yeah, that's why I said it was really weird that they did that, because it makes zero sense on why they did that from the very beginning.
So, I mean, you look at, you do look at Wolverine and you could say the very same thing. Like he has the long blades that come out of his hand.
I mean, I would say it's probably the length of at least his forearm, basically.
You could say they do hide probably nicely in the forearm. But when you look at this Deadpool from X-Men Origins, he has a full blade katana, which would have gone all the way up the arm, almost probably past the shoulder.
Which means he wouldn't have been able to move his arms at that point.
No, he wouldn't have been able to even bend the elbow.
Well, that's what I mean. Like move arms, bend anything. Like it would have been like he would have been poking out and he would have been stabbing himself the entire time.
Right.
So, I mean, and that's the thing about this Deadpool is like when we first saw him, we're like, oh yeah, this might be the one that we would think of in the comics. And we looked at him
Right.
and I said, what in the holy hell is this? Like what?
Yeah, he
How
had
is
some
your
weird flesh covering his mouth, and
right? And he didn't
was
even look
bald.
like
He had
him.
no hair.
Yeah. I mean, what's funny is like in the movie itself, like I mean, granted, I understand he was supposed to play like a younger, version, whatever, with like hair and stuff. But like it would have been interesting if they actually did what they were supposed to do instead of doing the movie that they finally did later on. If they actually did that same thing, I don't know, maybe in the movie, like I mean, granted, it was a quick backstory on that case, but like maybe he gets through that whole process just like he did in the movie. And then, oh, wait, he goes into that costume that he was supposed to be in from the very beginning. But no, but that's what I'm saying. That's why Fox did a terrible job. And they were like, oh, yeah, we're just going to change everything. Don't worry about it. We're just going to make it really interesting.
You question reality, and you question the writers, you question Fox, you question the whole thing of like, why did you cover his mouth? Why did you have full blade katanas coming out of his hands?
What were you on?
Why was he shirtless? I mean, I understand like you put him through the procedure, and you get all this like, but just why?
You know what I was? I guarantee you the writers were either on like LSD and Coke at the same time.
I was just thinking shrooms. Yeah.
I was thinking like two different drugs that counteract each other and just like, this is great. This will look great on him. And it's like, bro, what were you on exactly when you thought, hey, you know what? We're going to make him completely naked, pretty much, besides his pants or it was like sweatpants or whatever. And like basically blades coming out and basically all you see is his eyes and his nose.
It's like you get a bunch of people together, like you get a bunch of writers in a room that have no idea about comic books or video games. Like they're not geeks, they're not nerds, they're just like they're might be like brainy people, but they know nothing of comic books, and they just think of like, what are the coolest things that we could possibly do? How about we have him, obviously he's going to be fighting Wolverine. You know what would be cool? Is if he had some kind of a blade coming out of his hands like Wolverine. Well, Deadpool does have katana blades. Oh, let's have katanas come. And it's like they don't think of how are the katanas going to fit inside of his arms.
Right. I mean, they're not. It's not. You ever see those like fake retractable knives? Like that's the only thing I could think of is like, is that how it is? Like they just kind of like slide in somewhere.
He's just gonna.
Right. I mean, like, or is it like you're pretending to stab people and it's actually like, that's the part like I said, this whole thing about this whole design that these guys did at the time. I just remember looking at them and I'm like, that is honestly the dumbest thing that they could have ever done in their lives. Like that's why I said Fox, thank God that Disney bought Fox. Okay. Because if they kept it up, oh my God, think about it. What it would have looked like.
And to think of like, if that never occurred, and this character, because I think at the end of this movie, you do kind of see his hand kind of crash through, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it did.
To think of this character possibly being in another X-Men movie or in a Vox Deadpool movie.
Oh God, no. He
wouldn't talk because his mouth is covered by skin. He would still have the stupid. Like, would he not bend his arms? Like, how do you?
I mean, it is.
I don't understand.
I will admit, though, I do find it funny that Deadpool, or really the newer Deadpool, talks about, and what I'm pretty sure, I think it was either the first one or the second one at the very end. Like, or
the second one, he goes back to kill the.
Yeah, he kills him basically. But no, I thought there was like a couple seasons like, oh yeah, Ryan Reynolds did a really great job in like Green Lantern, and I think it was this one too that he was talking about. But so it's funny how he like kind of makes fun of himself. But again, guys, I'm gonna say honestly, this is just me. I know we haven't read them all. This is easily in the top 3 of one of the worst costumes I'd ever seen.
It's bad. It's bad.
But so this one. This is why we didn't mention it last week, because again, the Batman series of whole, right? So all the Batmans that were ever played. Okay. I know Matt and I have gone back and forth debating, which one's the best, which one's the worst, which one's whatever. hands down, costume wise, George Clooney is it is the dumbest costume that you could have had for Batman.
So, doing a little bit of research into into these, the Batman Returns, Batman's Val Kilmer's suit was the very first one that had nipples on it. But George Clooney's was the very, very first one that not only had nipples, but the butt cheeks were, kind of over accentuated. And if you look at the suit, the muscles weren't just kind of like natural looking. They were kind of really over accentuated. So they almost look like muscles were just kind of glued onto. They were just kind of patches. So you look at the abs and they're just kind of.
Oh yeah, no. I remember the suit. Yeah, and it was the dumbest looking thing. And you're right. I mean, it's like, instead of just having nipples, why not just? I'll say it. Why not just add breasts to the thing and just over accentuate the whole thing? I mean, to me, like when you look at,
might as well add like a little chest hair and
No, I mean
they're bats. Bats have hair.
I guess you got to be a hairy bat then. I mean, if that's how you want to be. But no, I agree that with George Clooney's Batman. Design wise, like even Robin, oh my God, they're pretty much. You might as well just take those two and put them together because those.
I'm honestly surprised that the Batgirl suit didn't have nipples on it.
You know why? Because it would have been too much. That's why.
Oh, it would have been too. It would. So they did make a different version of this when they go fight Mr. Freeze, and they added like the accentuating kind of silver or grayish things to it.
Oh, yep.
And when they added those accentuating things to it, you can look up the picture, John.
You know what? I need to
because they actually added a crotch piece to it that made the crotch kind of stand out a little bit more, and it makes it just a little bit worse. So it's like you make this Batman suit, and Robin's suit is almost pretty much the same, and Batgirl's is just about the same, except again, it doesn't have nipples.
Oh, I found it.
It's pretty awful, right?
Oh, hold on. There it is.
It's literally a crotch piece that looks like a bulge.
So right, and it's worse because Robin had it's almost identical to a degree. Because granted, Robin's got a few other things going on here. So like, yep, they both have bulges. They both have the ab pieces,
the patchy abs.
Yeah, so what's funny is Clooney's does not have the nipple piece. Robin's does in this one. And now it's funny because if you look at Batgirl in this, it's not really a nipple, okay? But it's enough to
look at
point.
that, yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
So
it has the silver things that go or literally almost around the boob.
Yeah, so the point is they didn't do any better when it came to her either. But what I'm saying,
it's just so awful. It's
that's why I'm saying,
yeah, it's really awful.
If you look at Batman, okay, this is why I just didn't also understand why they decided to have Clooney reappear in the Flash movie. They could have chose anyone, and they were like, "Nah, we're gonna get him," and we're like,
probably because at that point. When the movie was either being made or when it was the movie's irrelevant. The characters are relevant, the movie's irrelevant.
No, I get it.
The whole thing is Elseworlds, baby. It's irrelevant.
It's Elseworlds.
So the whole thing is irrelevant. So whether the Flash, that version of the Flash continues, that Flash might as well live in George Clooney worlds because he sucks too.
No, I agree. Because we've talked about it. When you start looking at the different Batmans and their suits and everything else, and just like their overall like persona of Batman. The only thing that George Clooney might have going for him is the whole playboy kind of persona look. That's it. There's nothing else that I can say.
He definitely has the Bruce Wayne.
He's got the Bruce Wayne side of it. The other part of it, no. He must be a dumb bag of rocks because I couldn't see him play it. You know what I mean? Like at least with Christian Bale and a few others, like they actually seem smart enough to actually do some of this stuff. You know what I mean?
And again, like what we said in the last episode, it's that thick rubber vinyl.
Oh yeah,
that just is the worst for like that type of a suit. And it's not like it's just a top piece and a bottom piece. Like, it's a whole suit, like he has to put it on. And it's not like he can really maneuver or turn his head or whatever. Like, that's not what you would want to, Batman, who is a martial artist and a tactician person, to be wearing a full thick rubber vinyl suit.
So I actually, I know we're going to be moving forward here in a second, but people asked, why was George Clooney Batman in The Flash? Okay. And this is the reason. It says his appearance was nothing more than a fun cameo, but it says James Gunn did say that The Flash would reset the DC cinematic universe. And unless Barry goes back to change the timeline again, this would presumably mean that Clooney would remain as the Batman of the DCU.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, boy.
Wow.
So what's funny is, like...
So, guys, that means we have more bat nipples in our future.
Woo! No.
Yes.
But what's funny is when I read that, I was like, oh, man. I said, so that really means that that's it. Like, George Clooney, man, this is your new Batman.
Bat nipples.
Bat nipples, baby.
We're making it.
Oh, God. Anyways, the next one, Matt.
So, moving on from bat nipples... This one, it was funny because when Suicide Squad, and not the Suicide Squad, but just Suicide Squad.
Suicide, yeah, right, because we have to change it from the to the Suicide Squad,
Yeah.
but that's fine, yeah.
So the very first Suicide Squad movie that came out, when, instantly when I saw that they were making this, and they said, oh, the Joker is going to be in it, I was like, all right, let's do it. And then they said, oh, Jared Leto's going to be in it. I was like, all right,
do it.
Let's go. Like, I think he could do a pretty good job. Like, he's a character actor. He's a method actor. Like, that's perfect for the Joker character because method actors usually do a better job at playing that kind of a character. And then, like a couple months later, they posted a picture, and oh,
your
boy.
face says it all, Matt. I know nobody can see it, but go ahead and describe it to me.
It's like they post a picture of what this Joker is going to look like in Suicide Squad, and I said, oh God, I hope that this is not the Joker that they're going to be using, because this has got out like this. I seriously hope this is a test, like the Sonic thing. Like,
yeah, it was a test.
I seriously hope like this is like what they did with Sonic. Like, they're just putting it out there, seeing the fan response, and then, oh, we're not getting a good response, we should change it up. Nope. That was exactly what they went with. And that's exactly what we got. Facial tattoos, the metal grill in the mouth, the very, very highly stoned voice that he used in the movie, the mannerisms. He was much more like a juggalo from the Insane Clown Posse than he was the Joker.
I mean, you're not wrong.
From, the Batman comics.
I agree. I definitely agree, Matt. I mean, no, because like I said, when I look at Jared Leto, there was just some people that you think are going to do well.
I would say if you took Jared Leto, and I said this to you like a long time ago.
You did.
If you took Jared Leto and you gave him the Heath Ledger treatment.
Correct.
But kept the performance, would have been completely different.
I also think if they decided to keep him on and do all that, instead of scrapping all the scenes that he was originally in, and actually making a movie, and again, give him the Heath Ledger treatment, give him all this other stuff, there would have been a whole, like you said, it would have been a completely different experience, a completely different even Joker as a whole, because at least it probably would have made more sense. I mean, I kid you not, man, if ChatGPT was around, I think it would have done a better job. I keep telling you, I really think it would have done a better job of writing this script than it would have, and maybe the character-wise too.
Yeah, so, I mean, we all know, the Joker is the king of chaos, right?
Absolutely.
So, with all the bling, you look at the movie, like, he had he had the metal grill in his mouth. He always kind of wore chains. He hung around clubs. He looked more like a gangster, like the Penguin or someone like that, than he would, I would say, being the actual Joker. Like that's not who the Joker is in the comics.
I mean, the problem is Joker. So this version of Joker, okay, it's just like the villains in Clooney's version. Okay, how weird and it just doesn't make any sense, right? So you got Riddler, you got Mister Freeze, Poison Ivy. Yeah, that was right. Yeah, so she was in that too with Bane. Like all these weird characters and actors that were playing, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, for God's sakes, okay, playing the Mister Freeze.
We've talked about this.
I know we have,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying, like, he's in that level of what are we doing here?
Yeah,
Like,
what are we doing?
Like, and this is why this Joker and this version of it, everyone's like, oh, it's great. I'm like, no, it's not. Like,
I think they gave him a new treatment though, I think in the Justice League. If I'm saying it right, in the whatever the different Justice League that they did.
what the Snack Snyder like extended version or whatever.
Yeah, I want to say that they
I didn't realize it was in there.
They gave him like long hair and a different look. Like
Wait a minute. So this Jared Leto was in the extended version of that.
yeah, I want to say he was like in that kind of nightmare-ish realmish. Like I there was a scene, and I want to say it was in like the Justice League or the Batman versus Superman, whatever that movie-ish.
Then I don't remember, to be honest.
It definitely wasn't Suicide Squad.
No, well, not definitely not the new one, which didn't make it any better.
I want to say it was like the friggin' 3 or 4 hour.
Yeah, so it was the extended. Yeah,
And it was. They definitely gave him a much different look.
I mean, either way you look at it, I mean, when I look at Joker, right, and we've said this multiple occasions, I keep saying that if you had the voice of Mark Hamill, okay, you had the voice of Mark Hamill, and then you had maybe like a Heath Ledger, maybe, you could switch it up a little bit. Maybe you can be like, take some good things about Heath Ledger, Jack Nicholson, kind of put them together, mix them up. Then you'd have your perfect Joker right there. Like that's just me. I would say you take all three essences, and that's how I would look with Joker. His version, I look at him and I'm like,
I don't take anything away from Jared, Leto. I think he did as well as what was written and what he could have done. But I mean, you take the laugh and you take how he looked. I mean, it's just
too neon. And I say this because it's too bright. It is way too bright for him and his character. I mean, the fact that he's got bright neon green hair, right?
Yeah, it just,
and he's got all like it's too much.
Yeah, the look was just not. It wasn't good. It just wasn't.
It wasn't Joker. It wasn't Joker-esque. It wasn't anything. It was just like you said. It was a 2-bit gangster that basically it was like a modern day version of like what basically crap looks like when it comes to the Joker. I don't
Harley Quinn.
Oh no, hands down.
Hands down.
Hands down, she phenomenal. Great person to have that in that role, and especially like, to me, like you look at those different characters, I mean, all of them, they did really well and they fit those roles the way they should. He was the oddball. He was that gum that was stuck on a table somewhere and should have never made it back into your mouth or something like that. To make your pleasure. Like, I guess that's the best way to describe it. But I just, no, Jared Leto, sorry, bud, not your best role.
No, by far not the best one.
Well, no, but the next one though, Green Lantern, my friends.
The next one is another Ryan Reynolds.
Yes, Green Lantern, which I said. So like Ryan Reynolds. So I always think of, it's funny how like certain superhero actors like this. So Ryan Reynolds, of course, did this well before he did Deadpool and stuff. I also look at, Chris Evans, right? Because he played the Human Torch well before he decided to, jump on the role and do all that.
Yep. There's
been a lot of people that have done either DC roles and then go to Marvel. That's usually how it goes. Is they'll do DC roles and then they'll go over to Marvel to finish up and do whatever. But I find it interesting with this one because the Green Lantern, I really wish it would have been it would have been a great movie, and a lot of different. I mean, there's a lot of things that definitely needed to be worked on for sure. But if we're talking about the costume, which that's what we are doing, you're right. It was one of those movies like you're just like, all right, so this whole costume is CGI'd. There is no literal suit that he's wearing.
Yeah, full CGI. I mean, there is something he is wearing,
Well,
but
yes, but it's not really.
the full suit is CGI, and the whole issue with the suit was that the execution of the CGI and the technology at the time was not great. It was not there, and it just wasn't. It wasn't great at the time.
I think what DC could do now is instead of having like a Hal Jordan, because that's what Ryan Reynolds was playing at that time. So there's a different version of course, Green Lantern, which is John Stewart. He's an ex-Marine, blah blah blah. He gets
The guy from the Daily Show.
Not going there. Yes, not for the Daily Show. No, what I'm saying is
I'm just kidding.
I know, but that's the character's name. He's so, but he's a different version.
Right.
I think that could be a really good kind of moving forward. And like instead of saying, okay, Hal Jordan, sure. Well, we've already explored that avenue. Let's not do that. Let's go with a different one. I think that one would be phenomenal, personally, if they could do it right.
Yeah, and I mean with the Ryan Reynolds like suit, I mean obviously the CGI at the time was an issue. How they executed the CGI on the suit was the issue. One of the bigger issues when you look at not just his suit, but it was the mask on his face.
Oh, because that was CGI'd. And then what's weird is like his eyes basically at that point were CGI'd. They had to be because if that was his like you know what I mean? Because
Yeah, so they the whole part of his face where that green mask goes was all CGI'd, and it just wasn't done right. And that's like kind of where you have that issue where if they went more practical,
right, and just kept it simple.
And the issue, with the entire movie is you can't do that on the level for that movie that you needed to do practical. You couldn't do because of how much CGI was used in that movie.
Well, so I think of how they did Iron Man in like when his nanotech. I'm not saying it has to be something like that, but it could be very similar where they could do something like that and, make it, how it kind of comes on and, he can transform that way. That would have been probably more practical than doing and it's just like a projection of like his suit and basically his mask and his face and whatever. But like, because nothing about his everything was real. Really, is basically his face minus his eyes. That was the only real part about every single shot that he was actually in that suit in.
I mean, obviously now they probably could do a better job doing.
Oh yeah,
doing a CGI suit, but even you look at Avengers Endgame when they're walking up to the quantum machine, those white suits that the Avengers are wearing, those are CGI, and they don't look fake at all.
No, I absolutely agree. But that's what I'm saying is like with the technology that they have now,
right?
They can easily change the whole narrative and change everything about it. I mean, so that's why there's no reason why you can't, do it now, especially in this case. So that's why I'm saying maybe not do it with Ryan Reynolds again, which is fine because that's fine. He's already said he's probably not going to ever do that again. But maybe if you wanted to go with the new wave of, comics, really, I mean, not really so much with Jon Stewart maybe, but, you can at least maybe bring him into the picture and be like, all right, cool. Now you have a new Green Lantern that you can now bring in and hopefully would make sense, and make it, work.
Maybe not do full CGI, maybe do,
like partial, like
part CGI, part practical, outfit.
Yeah,
where
like,
you can still have the glow, but be a more practical,
like actual suit
outfit. Yeah,
yeah, I agree. There's no reason why they needed to do that, but again, that's why Ryan Reynolds even made fun of himself in again Deadpool for that reason. But sadly, no, I'm not kidding. It's not sadly. This one, I will admit, is. I remember back in the day watching it, and yes, it was. I mean, ironically enough, it was like, comic book accurate to a degree of what he, was wearing and stuff like that in the movie. But like, I agree that it was not the greatest, costume in general, because I get it. Live action is different than, an animated series or something like that. But I mean, because they actually, if I'm not mistaken, they even brought him back in Deadpool 2, right?
Yeah, and in Deadpool 2, I mean, you look at that one and you compare it to, basically, I don't know if you said, but
No, we haven't talked. I haven't mentioned the name. No, Juggernaut.
we're talking about Juggernaut from X-Men Last Stand. And, you compare the Juggernaut from Last Stand to Deadpool 2 or 3. Is it 3?
No, the new one's that's coming out is 3.
2. So you do 2, and, that one, the helmet's radically different. Yeah, he's wearing more of like that prison jumpsuit type thing.
Yeah.
But you look at the character, you look at how he looks, and then you take X-Men Last Stand, and it's more of like this strappy leather bodice thing he's wearing kind of on the shoulders and the, upper pectoral area. The whole, belly area, hairy chest area is completely.
No, yeah, no, I
it's
get
completely open and exposed, and the helmet just looks like it's like just kind of carved out of a rock.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think because I know in the comics, I mean, yes, he's wearing it's like it's a spandex kind of suit in that sense, and yes, it's basically a metal helmet per se, and technically, if I'm not mistaken, too. In the movie, like in the Last Stand and stuff, like he doesn't get his powers from a gem, because in the like animated series, I remember watching him, like he gets a power literally from a stone, and that's how he gets the power of the Juggernaut. Basically, in the movie, it's not even it's just a mutation.
Yeah, he's a mutant.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, and because he says I hate all mutants and blah blah blah, and I'm like, well, in the animated series, playing footsies over here now. Like he was saying, I hate all mutants, blah blah blah. But he drew his power from that. But in this, he's like, oh, I hate mutants, and you're like, well, you're a mutant yourself. Yeah, no, but I don't know. I think that his suit, in the case of this case, it wasn't as. I know I kind of said it was kind of accurate, but I guess now, kind of remembering a little bit more, yes, it's not as accurate as it should be, because you're right. The helmet being kind of like made out of rock and not really the metal that it should be, because it's supposed to be impenetrable from basically psychic like wavelengths and stuff like that from like Jean Grey and Professor X. But it's yeah, I get it. I mean,
I think it could have been. I mean, obviously, it could have been more, but it's like you kind of look at it and it's like. He just kind of looks like a Roman gladiator with a rock helmet.
I agree. I mean, he looks like Hercules, basically, but without his, really without the head and everything else. But like, I don't know. I mean, it's tough to say, because like, Juggernaut is not really like, if you're an X-Men fan and you watch all the comic books and stuff, like, yeah, like that's when Matt showed me, like, that's the way I would think about it. Like in the movie, you're right, because it's not showing his belly.
Yeah, he's not showing his belly. I mean, he has an actual outfit that he's wearing. I mean, this one he's wearing kind of a red outfit, but
because originally that was his costume design, was just like a red kind of more outfit like that.
This one he's more of like kind of a brownish color, but I mean,
yeah. I mean, brown, red. I mean,
nothing is like exposed. And this one, I mean, literally, it's just like a leather strappy. If you know what a bodice is, it's just like a, typically like you, almost, I guess, like the bodice would be somewhat similar to like a holster for guns.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Like something like that. Although mainly for armor pieces, like you would wear them just to protect yourself from slashes or something for Roman gladiators and stuff like that.
No, and I agree. I mean, in the movie, it
wouldn't make sense for a guy who is called the Juggernaut and who runs through walls and runs through all kinds of different things to have his full body exposed.
No, I mean, because literally, I mean, because I don't know, can he regenerate or?
I don't know if he regenerates, but I mean, he definitely, uses his head to ram through,
Yeah.
walls, and that's what he does in the movie.
I mean, it's funny how like everyone's like, "Oh, he's strong." I'm like, don't get me wrong, he's strong. But I can tell you right now, the Hulk will annihilate the crap out of Juggernaut. Like there is no like literally, if Juggernaut's going to try anything, I'm like, go ahead and piss off the one guy in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that's probably going to beat the crap out of you. I mean, granted, he was destroying Loki like he was nothing, and granted, he's a god. So I'm just saying, guess what, buddy? You're done in that case. But yeah, no, I mean, Juggernaut is one of those characters that, again, if you like X-Men, if you like doing that, you might know who this person is, or you might understand like what we're talking about. But like, if you need to like get a more reference for this, I would say just look them up, or if you really want to go down the rabbit hole of X-Men, Last Stand, you could do that. But like what Matt was showing me it was kind of that same thing where, he's wearing that kind of rock helmet in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of a full head helmet, though. I mean,
I agree.
It looks more of like
it looks more of a helmet than it did in right. I mean, it looks as close as it's gonna get. But like, I mean, granted, he's wearing a jumpsuit. I get that, but like, it would have been interesting if they actually. I think part of the Last Stand, if I'm not mistaken, I think like he wore pants. I know that he wore pants and stuff. Like I think if they took, basically they just followed the comics, I think they would have been fine. I think that's what they should have just done. You know what? Yeah. See, I think what they should have done is the comics for both of these movies. They should have just said, you know what? Let's actually listen to the comics and just make it accurate.
Yeah.
God's sakes. I mean, I'm just saying. It's like, why is it so hard?
It shouldn't be that hard to just, you take a guy in a comic book wearing an outfit and can we use spandex? No. Can we use leather? Hey, everybody else uses leather. Let's use leather. But
or
like
something.
He's wearing pants. Instead of using a bodice, like maybe just give him a leather shirt.
Right. To cover
you don't
up
have
his
to
chest.
you don't have to cover the damn arms. You just have to like cover the upper torso.
Right.
And then boom. Guess what?
Now you have a Juggernaut.
Now you have a Juggernaut. Maybe give him a little bit of a better helmet. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's like
you're right. I think because then like in the comics, his helmet is very one. It's very huge, but it's like it covers his head, and it's basically it's almost like taking a Captain America's shield and just like expanding it even longer. And it's like, it's huge. It's not even small. It's like but it covers his head and it covers everything around him. But like, it's massive. It's not even something
I mean,
small.
in the movie, it's basically just a helmet. It's basically just like if you took a helmet that was just something for your head.
Right.
That was what he was wearing in the movie. I mean, this is just an action figure that I'm showing you, but this is.
No, like that's what I mean. Like it was a huge helmet.
It went down. I mean, it went down past his neck to his shoulders. Like It was something that covered his complete head and shoulders. Like it braced his whole head and neck from impact.
Right, and that's where I would think that you could make it, and you could make it as close as you could to that. But they were like, "Nah, we're just going to give you a helmet."
And that's where I think the Deadpool one was a little bit better because at least you had the, it had the.
Yeah, it was covering that certain area, but again, we could talk about this for hours, but I'm just saying, I think I'm going to throw one other one in there for you, Matt.
Oh yeah?
Oh yeah. I'm going to throw one little ringer out here, okay? We talked about him actually in the last episode. I want to see if you remember who I was talking about.
Keep talking.
Okay. This particular person, okay, has 0 abilities, basically wears a suit, and uses certain weapons to beat the crap out of people. Think about this for a second. We talked about it in the last episode, and you mentioned his name. You did, not me. You.
I have no idea.
Really? Wow.
I have the brain of a fish.
I know
like
you
it
do.
resets every 30 seconds or so.
You're like, hey, my name's Tom. Hey, my name's Tom. No, I'm kidding.
That's probably as accurate as it's going to be. Yeah.
Anyways, kick ass. Like, okay, so if you haven't seen, I'm going to say this, guys, if you and gals, if you haven't seen the movie, okay, I think it's phenomenal in certain aspects. But if we're looking at just the costume and what he does, it is the stupidest, lamest costume you could ever get. Okay, granted, I know it actually is a comic book series and it was a real thing, but the movie, I think it's hilarious. I think it's funny, but it's not even really so much about him. It's actually the little girl that he's actually with that really makes it funny and everything else. But like his character, literally, he puts on it was like a leather spandex. I don't even know what kind of material it was, but like
I think it's like spandex or something.
Like a spandex. I think some of it's leather, but like he puts on a mask. It's like you're almost watching like a luchador. I don't know, wannabe. It was kind of like if you remember watching like the original, like I'm gonna bring back up Spider-Man and like Tobey Maguire, like that same style suit, but like a green and yellow, and it's kind of weird. But again, his weapons were just literal like police batons, something that you could literally probably buy from like a store from whatever. But like it wasn't. He didn't really do a whole lot. I mean, granted, he beat the shit out of people, but like. Yeah, I mean, and Matt showed me. It literally looks like he took like 2 yellow, like kitchen gloves that you were washing dishes with.
Yeah,
and like he basically wore like Timberland boots for his first boots, right? And he again,
maybe like electrical tape to do like the lines,
and stuff. But it is the most basic suit that you could ever find in a superhero. Okay, and I don't know how to really go more than that, but I mean like. The character itself, it's like he was just a kid in high school, and I'm pretty sure he wanted to become a superhero because and it's been a while since I've seen it, but like he wanted to become a superhero. He got mixed up with this one girl who basically was trying to find her dad and try to figure out some stuff, and she goes on a killing spree, blah blah blah, and he goes with her as like a sidekick basically to her. I mean, the movie's good, like I said, but like. Like I said, the costume and in the worst part is in the second movie, it doesn't change. It's still the same thing. Like he doesn't get an upgrade. He doesn't get shit. It's like, that's what it is. That's kick-ass for you. It's like, why, guys? Like I'm telling you, if you haven't seen it, I mean, it's up to you. You can watch it. I'm just saying, if you ever get a chance to watch it, just look at the actual costume, and I guarantee you're going to be like, that is the lame. Like literally, you could just go make it yourself right now. You could probably just take the same idea and just be like, yep, I can go do that real quick.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, man, cool. I guess I'm just gonna talk to myself then. That's great. Yep.
You know what? I mean, one of the probably the most accurate as far as like comic book movies / characters.
Oh.
As far as like
are we talking about worst, like accurate comic book?
No, I think like closest, like to
out of this list
to their comic book like counterparts.
Are we talking about on this list
and story wise? Not on this list.
Oh, I thought we were doing it on this list, but okay.
Which is probably surprising, but would be The Watchmen.
Okay. Which character are you talking? Or the whole, or you're talking about everybody?
I think just everybody in general.
So like Dr. Manhattan, was it Rorschach? And I can't remember all the names off the top of my head because it's been a while.
It's been a while. I don't know the name of the owl guy, but I think he probably was my least favorite. Just the way that he looked.
Yeah.
I think his was kind of like.
I mean, honestly, Dr. Manhattan or Rorschach.
He was like the Walmart version of Batman to me. Like that was just the.
No, you're right. You're right. I mean, I would say
when you look at the Watchmen comics, like they, what they did for the movie, they're pretty accurate. You know what I mean?
Well, I agree. I would say Dr. Manhattan and Rorschach were.
I mean, I didn't really need to see a blue dong.
No, but neither did I. But I'm just saying, I would say out of those two, I would say those are really well portrayed. characters in the movie. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to worst costumes, guys, I mean, you know what? Maybe we'll throw those out here. If you guys want to give us something, this is a challenge for you guys. If you ever want to partake in one, send us some of the worst costumes that you've ever seen. It doesn't matter if it's in superhero movies or not. Like, we're talking, it can be anything. Maybe there's things, I mean, again, we're just talking about the ones we've seen, this and that. I know there's got to be worse than that. So I want you guys to send us anything that you think is the worst costume of all time. It can be in superhero movies, it can be in anything. And it doesn't even have to be comic book related. It could be books, it could be whatever. You let us know, and who knows, maybe we'll rehash this at some point and we'll be like, hey guys, look at that. Cool, we got some fan mail talking about this now again. But guys, we appreciate your support. We should appreciate everything that you guys do. We appreciate the fact that Matt still has his beard, because at one point I might want to shave it off. I know that Danielle might want to kill me, though.
That ain't never going to happen.
Yeah, well, you say that. We'll see. Maybe we'll have to do that later on. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to make a challenge out of it. Let's see.
Nope.
Let's see what Matt looks like without a beard. Hashtag 2024. No. All right. Anyways, guys, we appreciate the love and support. We love you guys. I hope that, you guys can continue to show that, fan mail, whatever, anything that can help us out in the long run, because God damn it, I swear, not that I don't want to do Jeff's Corner, my friend. I would love to do Jeff's Corner at some point, but I feel like we need to have more of like a fan's corner, not Jeff's Corner in the solo area, But guys, we love you. But until next time,
stay geeky.